Listen!
Welcome everyone, this is Andres Restart, and this time we are talking about Nintendo Switch 2 development kits being out there according to a reliable leaker. Now what does this mean exactly? Well, that's what we're talking about today. But before we go further, let me point out that we are aiming to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. With your help, it just might be possible. So when I say Nintendo Switch 2, I'm referring to Nintendo's next generation console. We don't know what it's going to be called. Switch 2 is just shorthand. And a development kit is what a developer needs. It's like a version of that hardware so they can make games for that system. So if a developer has a Switch 2 development kit, that means that they are developing for this system and it's not too far off. And this reliable leaker, well, is pretty reliable. This person goes by the name Nash Weedle, el analista de leaks, and this is what they said specifically. El kit de desarrollo de Switch 2 ha llegado a España. And what that means is that a development kit for Nintendo Switch 2 has come to Spain, suggesting that a Spanish developer is using a Nintendo Switch 2 development kit to make a game for that system. And if you don't trust this person, there will be a link in the description below, but this person is pretty reliable. They told us about Metroid Dread multiple times before it was announced. They told us there would be a 2D Metroid game, that it would be called Metroid Dread, and that was just kind of an insane thing to do because no one at the time would have predicted, and when I say no one, most people would not have predicted that Nintendo would come back with a 2D Metroid game and they would have Dread as a title. This was a canceled project that had been actually canceled multiple times over the years, and for Nintendo to actually bring it to life, to fruition, and actually have it out for the public, that was an amazing thing. And for someone to say this beforehand, to have not only the name and release timing, but also the developer, Mercury Steam, to know all of that, that suggests that they very much had the inside information on this. So they have a good track record here. And I am inclined to believe what they're saying. So assuming this is true, and while I am inclined to believe it, that doesn't mean it is true for sure. Take it with a grain of salt. But if it is true, what does this mean? Well, what this means is that a developer in Spain is making games for Nintendo Switch 2, suggesting it's not that far off. And this whole development kit thing is kind of a big deal, because when it comes to the speculation on when Switch 2 is going to come, the big thing we've been waiting to see are development kits. If we are starting to see development kits, that means that we are getting close. Potentially an announcement might not be that far off. Now, what does this mean exactly? Does this mean it's getting announced in a week? Possibly. Does this mean it's getting announced in a year? Also possibly. It's hard to say for certain what this means, but what it does say is that it is possible that we could get an announcement relatively soon. Because if a developer in Spain is developing games for Switch 2, then Nintendo themselves has been developing games for Switch 2 for some time already. Now, there's speculation that this developer is Mercury Steam, the developer behind Metroid Dread, and this would be interesting because we already have a rumor from this same leaker that Metroid Dread 2, or the follow-up to that, is already in development by Mercury Steam, which really shouldn't come as a shock. I think that makes a lot of sense. Metroid Dread sold very well, so they could easily follow up with another in 3 to 4 years or so. Definitely I think that's likely, but if they have this development kit for the next Metroid game, that implies that this next Metroid game is for the next system, and they're saying this Metroid game is coming out in 2025. So the implication here is that Switch 2 will be out by 2025, and I doubt a 2D Metroid game is going to be the launch game for this system. It will be out beforehand. But that's still quite a large window. And we don't know if this Spanish developer is Mercury Steam. We are making that assumption because they've reported or leaked information from Mercury Steam before, but it could just be another Spanish developer, and they may just have good inside knowledge on the development community within Spain. But there was a video I put out a few days ago, and it was a theory based off the different news we've been getting lately, The theory being that maybe Switch 2 could come out as soon as this next March to close out the fiscal year, potentially with Metroid Prime 4. And while I'm not certain that is going to happen, I feel like the safer bet is to say 3D Mario is going to be the launch game for the Switch 2, and with Mario Wonder and Mario RPG coming out this holiday, it doesn't seem like 3D Mario will be coming out that soon. But what if it isn't 3D Mario? What if it is something else? Maybe like Metroid Prime 4, which is rumored to be coming out by the end of the fiscal year. Depending on how Nintendo wants to handle this transition and how they want to market things, this news of potentially there being a dev kit out there, it strengthens the argument. I'm not 100% saying this is going to happen. I understand that Metroid Prime 4 may not seem like the best choice for a launch title for a brand new system, but when you consider that there is a likelihood that Nintendo's going to want to have a smooth transition, there are still going to be games coming out for Switch, not just into next year, but likely beyond that. Just look at how Nintendo handled 3DS. We were still getting new games on 3DS into 2019. Switch came out in 2017. So it wouldn't shock me if 2026 comes around and we're still getting games for Switch, but Switch 2 may be coming out in 2024. So if Switch 2 is meant to live alongside of Switch 1 for a few years, then this idea of them needing to launch with maybe like a big 3D Mario may not be as necessary. They may be able to get away with something else that's more of a showcase of the system's abilities if the system is just going to be meant more as a premium for the next couple of years, because they're not going to be able to catch up to Switch sales anytime soon. It's going to take some time. So they're going to want most of their games selling on the base Switch so they can still make a lot of software sales, but over time catch up and eventually transition over to just having games for Switch 2. Kind of how Sony has been transitioning from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 over the last few years. That's the idea, and if that's the direction they're going, I could see Metroid Prime 4 and Switch 2 coming out, say, March of 2024. But we don't know exactly how Nintendo is going to handle this transition, how they're going to make their next system, if it's going to be a true proper sequel to Switch or if it's going to be something different. I think it's likely going to be something like Switch because that's clearly the best kind of system they've made ever, so they're going to want to follow that up in some way, but they also may want to try and think of a way to innovate and make it feel new so it has the opportunity to do better than Switch. Because usually when Nintendo follows up a successful system, they trend downwards. It still may be very successful, but the odds of it being as successful as Switch are not as likely, unless they improve things in some significant way. And I don't just mean in terms of power. That all said, news of this development kit is exciting because it does suggest we are going to see some news sooner than later. It doesn't mean it's coming out as soon as this March. I definitely don't think it's coming out this year. That would be a huge shock based off how they showcase games for the second half of the year with the recent Direct. But, you know, I think 2024 is seeming really likely at this point. Maybe by summer, as Nick K has suggested, or maybe we'll have to wait until holiday 2024 for the next 3D Mario, which still isn't that far off in my opinion. There's still plenty of great Switch games that are coming, a lot more that haven't even been announced yet, so it's not like it's going to be this slog or a drought. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Nintendo's discovered that by having a consistent lineup of games coming out almost every single month, they have incredible success, so I don't think they're going to go away from that. I think it's also interesting that we're hearing about this now because recently we've heard from Bobby Kotick that he has been in discussions with Nintendo about the Switch 2 and its potential power. Now, we're not entirely clear on what that power is going to be. It's been suggested that it might be in the realm of PS4, which is what I sort of expected, and some people have been complaining about this, thinking that's too weak. But that's still going to be a few times more powerful than Switch, and when you account for the fact that this system may have something like DLSS or an advanced form of FSR or something that's more catered towards Nintendo, this AI upscaling can take that output that's comparable to a PS4 level kind of system and make it look a lot better, especially when you factor in that this is going to be modern hardware as a whole, so it's going to be able to do a lot. And games are going to look and run significantly better than they do on Switch, and most of them are going to look and run a lot better than games we've seen on PS4, so it will be better than that, and I think that is promising. So while I'm not certain we're going to get Switch 2 news like maybe next week or sometime this month, I do think that we are closing in on its release timing. It's definitely sometime in 2024 in my opinion. but we'll see as things pan out. What do you guys think though? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andreas Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.